Hi there, this is Fabiola, and I'm here sitting in front of my Hatch version 2 software. And as you can see on my screen, I have a little bunny rabbit sitting in a rocking chair. And what you see around this bunny rabbit is that I have selected this object and I have used the Ambience Quilting function that I'm pointing at over on the left toolbar, which is in the Create Layouts section of this particular software program. The reason that I have done this is because I want to just explain a couple of different ways that you can actually create an outline around an object. And the reason that this question actually came up is because one of our members decided that she wanted to add a quilting line around an object that she was embroidering on a baby quilt. And so there are a couple of different ways actually that in Hatch 2 and also in the MBX software programs that you can create some outlines very easily. And I wrote up a little tutorial this morning and posted it in an email to the group about one of the ways that you could do it. And that way actually is using not the Ambience Quilting function, but actually the one that's called Creating Outlines and Offsets, which is also in this Create Layout section of Hatch 2. So they are two different ways of doing it. Actually, there's three different ways. And using each one of these different methods is going to give you different results. So I'm not going to actually be doing any digitizing during this short little video. I'm just going to show you the results that I got. So what you see on the screen is a embroidery file. This was a Jeff file, and which means that it is a stitch file. And what I did with it is I simply just opened it up in my software program. And when I opened this Jeff file up, I actually came up here prior to opening it into software settings, and in the embroidery settings function here, I actually had this as converting the stitches into object shapes rather than what you see right here, because after I did this item, I changed this setting. The reason that I had selected converting the stitches into an object shape is that I was hoping that I would get a better, more precise outline using an object shape rather than an individual stitches shape. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about what that actually means because that is a whole other issue. But basically what an object is that would be equivalent to as if you had digitized this design yourself in your embroidery software program. Whereas a stitch file is something that you have purchased from a designer and it is meant to go directly into your embroidery machine. So it's not the original recipe. So my hope was that if I converted this into an object, into object shapes, which over here on my right hand toolbar you would be able to see each one of these little lines in this section around up here, you can see that it's tried to interpret the information into actual digitized objects. It wasn't successful in doing all of them. That's what these little, this notation means. That basically means that it doesn't exactly know what it is. So at any rate, this was the result I got. The way that you do that is basically you just select your object. You have to make sure that it's been grouped. And then you just come over to Ambience Quilting. And when you do that, this box is going to open up. It's going to give you some things that you're going to be able to select. You're going to be able to select what type of quilting you want. So you're going to have the choice of echo, scroll, stipple, an echo clipped, or a scroll clipped. Okay, you're going to be able to also determine how far apart you want each one of your lines to be. If you had selected the stipple, your selection is going to also include somewhere around in here when you're actually doing this, how big your stipple is going to be. Okay, so that's how the Ambience Quilting basically works. This is not a tutorial actually on how to do that. And this is the result I got with Ambience Quilting with an echo style of an outline. If you like the way that it made this little outline around your object and you only wanted that one outline, your next step would be to actually select, when it creates this, it creates as one grouped object. You can see that when I clicked on it, it all got highlighted in this bright pink. And over here on my sequence bar, everything is selected. I would just right click on here and I would ungroup it. And then I could delete whichever ones of these lines I'm holding down my control key and I'm just clicking on all of these segments here, and I'm just going to hit my delete key to just show you that you could delete out of this whichever ones you wanted to. Okay, but that is basically the result I got using this Ambience Echo Quilting with this particular design. I'm now going to move over into a different design. This one here is an outline or a red work type of a design. Again, you can see that I used the Ambience Quilting and I used an Echo. This time you're going to see how the outline on this, it's just kind of a very vague boxy shape. It's not very defined. It doesn't go around the little bunny rabbit very well. It's just sort of a very loosely shaped piece. You may like that. You may not. Design number 3 that I'm clicking on, this same little rabbit here is from that same design collection. This time what I did with it is when I selected this rabbit and she was grouped, I used the create outline and offset function on this one. And I did not use an outline up here. I actually just used the outline, the offset outlines, and I chose to do 2 of them. They were spaced 4 millimeters apart, and I also used this style of a corner on them. And this is the result I got. Again, it's just a big kind of block around this rabbit. It doesn't come in close around her actual outline shape. Up here at the upper portion, you're going to see that it actually did some funny things, and that had to do with that cornering function that I chose on that one. Okay, so maybe you like that style, maybe you don't. Again, if you only wanted one of the outlines, you would just select this object and you would delete it out of here if you didn't want it. Design number 4 is that same little rabbit. This time I used the Ambience function. And the outline, again, is just kind of a very loosely, I don't even know how to describe that, but, again, it's just not a very precise outline of the rabbit itself. So this is with Ambience Quilting. On this design, another one of the rabbits from that selection, again, Ambience Quilting. And once again, a very vague outline. Design number 6, what you see on the screen here is where I actually did some digitizing. And I just want to encourage you all, that this really isn't a difficult thing to do. What I'm going to do is down on my sequence bar, I'm just going to select this green tatami fill rabbit, and I'm going to move it up to the top so that what you can see is what I actually did. I brought in this outline red work bunny rabbit. I grouped it so that it was one object. Then I came over into the Digitize toolbar. I selected Digitize a closed shape. Okay, and what I did is I just very simply went around the outline of the shape and I digitized the outline of that rabbit. Okay, and the reason why I did that is because I want to show you the result that you'll get if you take the time to do it this way. So this little rabbit, I am now going to select this tatami fill. And remember, it is a closed object shape. And you're going to see that here by this symbol of the closed complete star that you see on the object type. I've expanded my sequence bar so that you can see this information. This time I am going to use the Ambience Quilting. Just click on it. I'm not playing with any of the settings here. I'm just leaving them at the default of what was being used on the other designs. I'm going to say OK. It's going to take a second to generate. Do you see that? So that shape actually isn't much more defined than what all these other ones were that we were looking at using the Ambience Quilting. All right, but I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select my green rabbit again. This time I'm going to use the Create Outline and Offsets function. And I'm just going to leave this as offset outlines. I'm going to leave them as 2 of them. It's a single run. I'm going to have it digitized this time in red. Oh, actually, maybe I'll just change the color real quickly to black. That will show up well. Again, I have a choice on what kinds of corners I want. This time I think I'm going to go with the pointier ones. And I'm going to say OK. And there is my outline that this is created using the outline and offset function. And you're going to see that if you're looking for a really nice, crisp outline shape around your object, that digitizing a closed shape of that object and then using the Create Outline and Offset function is actually going to give you a better and more precise outline shape of that design. It just takes a little bit of time. And I'm not kidding. I didn't want to have to digitize on screen while I was making this video, but really it only took me maybe 1 minute to use that digitizing function over here. Remember that it's just in your digitize toolbar, and it is digitizing a closed shape. And it is a closed shape that makes it, the software, read that as a really nice object to create that outline. So I'm going to turn off the true view real quickly so that you can see where the tie-ins would be, and they're right down in here on this part of the object. And the other thing that I wanted to say about that actually is that the software interpreted it as the tie-in and the tie-off down here at the bottom of the rabbit's foot. And actually, when I digitized the green object, again, I'm going to look at it in true, turn off the true view. Let's look at the green object and reshape it. I actually started digitizing this green shape right up here. Oh, let me see if I can zoom in on this without wiggling too much. I actually started digitizing it right here at the point of where the two ears come together. The software interpreted that object when it actually created it, and it did the starting point, or this is actually the end point, that's the cross. Where did it put the beginning? Right over here at the neck. And so, you know, sometimes when you digitize a closed object, or sometimes even when you're digitizing an open object, the software may not put your starting points and your ending points exactly where you digitize them. So do always check that, you know, turning off the true view and looking at those objects in your reshape function just to check where those starting points and end points are, because it may make a difference to you and what you actually want to see happen. All right, anyway, that's all I have to say about that for now. And again, this is Fabiola, and I was just exploring for myself a little bit more about creating really nice outlines that possibly could be used for quilting designs around an object when you're making a quilt. Oh, one other very quick thing that I do want to say. I'm going to hit my escape key to get out of there. I'm going to look at this object right here, and I'm briefly going to look at the stitch properties of it. So right now, the stitch length of those single run line is 2.5 millimeters long. And if I wanted to change the stitch length on that, I could very simply do that just by either clicking my up arrow or highlighting this and typing in whatever I might want that stitch length to be. And if I did not want them to be variable, which basically means that as it started going in tighter around some of these small curves, the stitch length would automatically want to be shortened. But if I didn't want them to shorten, I could just deselect this variable run length and keep each one of those stitches at 2.6. Okay, that's just how I decided I would change it. In true view, that might make a little more sense if you could see this stitch length might change a little. See there? If I did a variable run length and shorten this back down to 2.2, for example. Oh, 2.2, I'm typing that in. Enter. It might make a difference on how this line looks, and maybe not. But anyway, play with some of those settings and just get the best result for the project that you're working on. And I hope you have fun with it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.